This is the thinnest phone I've ever covered. It's 5.2 millimeters thick, masses just 136 grams, and it was released 9 years ago. Yeah, next to Motorola's Moto Z from 2016, Samsung's new Galaxy S25 Edge hardly seems to be the engineering marvel its maker claims. It doesn't do anything novel with its slender form factor, nor does it leverage new technologies to limit the disadvantages of going so slim, nor does it push the frontier of design in, well, any way. Even the colors are frustratingly derivative of Apple's joyless Pro palette for its MacBooks and iPhones. On paper, the S25 Edge only reinforces the perception that the company that led the Android smartphone space for so long has finally run out of ideas. But that's on paper. To see if the reality matched the expectation, I made the Edge my primary phone at Google I/O in Mountain View, and as always, the real world had some surprises in store. Before we get going, let's take a tour of the hardware of my review sample from Samsung. And while I hate saying it because it seems like such a cop-out, I'm bound to do so anyway. This is one of those products you have to hold to understand. While it's true that neither its thickness nor its mass are going to break any records, there's an expectation your brain forms when you see a big 6.7-inch phone, and the Edge effectively subverts it, because it does feel slimmer and lighter than what should be possible. When you tally up that edge-to-edge AMOLED, the 5G, the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, etc., my comparison to the Moto Z doesn't hold as much water. It's a different phone for a different time with different priorities, and it is potently portable. That makes it a direct competitor not to the other S25 phones, but to Samsung's Galaxy Flip 6, which is also aimed at those who prioritize portability at the same exact price to boot, a penny shy of 1,100 clams. And from some angles, it's easy to see the engineering lessons Samsung has incorporated from its Flip and Fold series phones. So when we do take the Edge to I/O in a sec, the Flip 6 is what we'll be comparing it to when it comes to the cameras, which have been reduced to two here too. A 200-megapixel primary and a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, placed on a plinth that gives the Edge a lot more wiggle than you want on a tabletop. Fortunately, my sponsor Dbrand helps out with that, because even if you put a case on a thin phone, well, it's still a thinner package overall. The Ghost case is transparent, scratch-resistant, and it brings the magnetic array the Edge doesn't, while the Prism protects your screen. And naturally, you've got the option of classic skins, too. That's my move. I ordered Area 51 and leather, and, I always succumb to the latter. Dbrand your device at the link below. What else is there on hardware? Not much. A Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 on the front, Victus 2 on the back, titanium in between to allay your fears about bending, and stuffed into the center, the other thing we're all afraid of, a 3900 mAh battery, smaller even than the one in the Flip. I've been using the phone for a few days already to let it adjust to my usage patterns, so now that we're marinated, let's hit the road and see how it holds up on a travel day. We start at 7 a.m. with a wait-and-save Uber request to the airport and a little Spotify session to download songs for the flight. On that ride to the airport, with Uber codes provided by Google, I catch up on some email and also dive into the morning summary from Galaxy AI, which, unfortunately, is about as bare bones as it was back in January when I first tried it. I need to test this phone as I would any daily driver, so at the airport I pair it with my Galaxy Watch Ultra and Beats Fit Pro review samples. And even though you'll notice other phones sitting around in some of these shots, keep in mind I'm using the Edge as my primary. I load up my boarding pass in the Delta app, which forces the screen to its max of 2600 nits. No complaints about brightness here. En route to SFO, I blot out the engine roar with 2 hours of podcasts, and I mute the roar of my thoughts with 2 hours of Spotify. All the while, I'm doing socials, taking notes, slinging more emails, and even messing around with the K2HF1 sent to me by Keychron, which is an impractical but effective ergonomic solution to the seatback tray tables that are too small for laptops. And now keep in mind that my screen brightness has basically been bottomed out for 6 hours, thanks to this being a plane load of total killjoys who keep their window shades closed, even on a middle-of-the-day transcon. Nevertheless, by the time I touch down at SFO, we're mere moments from the first death of the day after 11 hours of usage. And the phone does give up the ghost in the car en route to Google's hotel. And that means we get to test top-up speed. Plugging it into the 30-watt Nomad charger you may recall from my travel tech video, we get to 57% in 30 minutes, 93% after an hour, and 100% takes almost exactly an hour and 15 minutes. Faster than I expected, but that's thanks more to the battery's small size than an advancement in charging speed. This is still, of course, just 25 watts, or 15 if you go wireless. Now, it does heat up quickly, which I don't mind while charging, but thermals did give me a problem when driving later in the trip. Hertz was all out of normal cars, so it rendered me a monster truck. Thanks a lot. After a few hours of using wireless Android Auto, the phone got so hot that Google Maps started crashing. Of course, right in the middle of a highway merge situation. Not great. But back to Mountain View, and fast forward an overnight to Google I/O Day 1. Another early morning start. Coffee paid for with Google Wallet. Email triage, which reminds me I don't like this new bubble design for the notification shade. Keeping Instagram fed with mildly entertaining takes. Shooting the keynote with a camera that wasn't designed with telephoto in mind. Samples in a sec. Making sure there aren't any surprises in the media kit. Checking again to see if the Now bar will surprise me with any AI that's actually useful. It doesn't. In the media lounge, shooting and editing more social posts. And before 3 p.m., we're below 15%. To be clear, these are not typical days for the target customer. I'm using a style-forward phone as a power user. So, yeah, what do you know? It's not living up to the workload for which it wasn't designed. In fact, it actually did better than I thought it would. But that also tells you you won't be able to rely on it for an unusually heavy day in normal life. You gotta carry a battery pack if you want to be fully covered on this one. Which would be fine if we were still in a lithium-ion only world. But I can't help but wonder what might have been possible had Samsung packed in more power density in the form of a silicon carbon battery, which has been used to great effect in other ultra-thin phones and would have been perfect here. We've been complaining about Samsung's ultra-conservative battery and charging approach for far too long. It's just another example of the company's unwillingness to show ambition in some areas. I was mostly pleased with the Edge as a camera, though that's likely due to my decision to compare it to one of Samsung's least photo-focused phones. From the Empire State to Silicon Valley, the Edge cleaned the Flip 6's clock, with the clamshell only coming out ahead in a handful of examples. Even pushing the phone's zoom to its limit at the Shoreline Amphitheater, I got usable results out of the Edge more often than I expected. And even after dark, when things got blurry, as they tend to do, for the most part, both the main array and the selfie shooter showed up when I needed them to. Coffee cheers. Bam. If all this feels a bit rote, yeah, that's the nature of a phone like this, built for one of two reasons. Either Samsung wanted to get ahead of Apple's rumored iPhone Air, so it rushed this out, and/or it's testing the waters to see if there's a market for a device like this before pulling out all the stops and actually trying for the real one. And that wouldn't be out of character for the company. It did much the same with the Galaxy Alpha in 2014, which pioneered many of the CMF choices that would make their way into the Galaxy S line the following year. If that's what's happening here, then in that respect, I'm glad the S25 Edge exists, because it's a sign that Samsung's design ambition isn't completely dead, that the rumors of an internal reboot of the company's aspirational spirit might be in the early stages of bearing fruit. If you don't care about any of that, but just want a thin and light premium Android phone, then sure, the Edge is good news for you. Me, I'm saving my excitement for the summer, when we're expecting a Galaxy Flip 7 that's virtually guaranteed to be more exciting, versatile, colorful, and just fun than this product could ever hope to be. But then again, I'm a foldable freak and a phone nerd whose opinions have nothing to do with mainstream buying habits. So if my take on the Edge is anything like my opinion of the S25 Ultra, I'm sure this thing will sell in record numbers too. Friends, this review comes to you following a week with a Galaxy S25 Edge filmed in part at Google I/O in Northern California. Travel and lodging by Google for that, and review sample by Samsung. But as always, no company had editorial input into this video or even an early preview of same, and it is not a paid promotion. The lone sponsor is dbrand. Subscribe to The Mr. Mobile if you'd like to see more videos like this on YouTube, and stay tuned for my first ever smartphone detox, like first in my life, as I move into the Light Phone 3. Till next time, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on socials, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.